G'day everyone, Greg here from Fish Plate Films, and we're back on the Birdwood subdivision, and as promised we're doing this mountain here. So what we'll do is we'll go through very quickly on the steps of getting to this stage with our cardboard strips and our plaster cloth, and then we'll get into the rock moulds. That's right, so there's a couple of rock moulds here, and I've been trying my art at rock carving, which is quite rewarding but rather challenging. Like everything, the devil's in the details. So let's not muck around, let's get into it. So we'll have a quick look at the cardboard and the framework to get this to this stage, and then we'll concentrate on doing some rock carving. This is the area we'll be building our hill on, and we'll be using strips of cardboard, and this is one of the spines we'll be using to support the cardboard. You see, we'll put it in there at the angle that we want. And then once we know where it is, we'll do a rough cut to make it look like the profile of the other side of the mountain, because we'll be creating a bit of a cutting through here. Then to get a bit of shape for our cardboard strips, we'll use another spine on the other side, and we'll brace it with some Z bits of cardboard, little Z strips that actually make this quite strong. So once I'm happy with where the cardboard spines are, we can start putting our cardboard strips together and gluing them across to make our profile for the hill. Now at this stage you don't have to be too concerned about how rough the cardboard strips are or if they don't line up, because we'll be covering this with plaster cloth, and you can even out any issues with the plaster cloth or whatever you're using on top of the plaster cloth, like a sculptor mould or something like that. It's very easy to adjust the length of the cardboard strip if you're not happy, and the only thing left to do is to put some horizontal strips through here to stiffen up the whole thing. Okay, here we go. We've got our plaster mixed, so it's about, just runs off the spoon, like that. And when you're mixing the plaster, water first, and then you plaster into the water. Okay, so this is still a little bit runny, but it's so hot here today. It's only about 35 degrees. Yeah, that's too wet. That's too wet there. But what we can do, we can put it on. Now the idea is to put it on in lumps where you think you might want a rock. So if you want one there, you can see this one here is running through here, so I'll try and put a bit there so it can flow through. And well, we've got a little bit there, so I might try and dab a bit there. It's a little bit too runny, but what I've done is I've overcompensated because of just how hot it is today. Not the ideal conditions to be doing this at all. But anyway, that's what happens. I tend to film videos, when it's stinking bloody hot. Don't know why. So we might just use the whole lot here. We can move it around. Now, this isn't turning out as well as over here because this is a bit too runny. But you get the idea if it was a bit drier and I wasn't doing it in heat wave conditions. Try and do this in a cooler environment if you can. Okay, so it's starting to dry off a little bit. It's only about 5 minutes, but I can start just sort of putting some lines in here where I think, things just naturally fall. So that's a bit of a thing over here. It's still too wet down here. Now, one of the reasons why it's still wet is because when I did this bit here, I used a plastic dish and a plastic spoon, and the plaster reacts quicker when you do it in plastic. And I mentioned that when I was doing my rock carving videos and we were using casting plaster, and I've proven it here again today. So I really think that if you want to use mixed plaster and you want it to last longer and mix better, use glass. That's I've basically proven it here a few times. So what we've got a bit of a relief here, so let's go with what's already there. Let's say this is still too wet, but anyway. But we'll work with what we got. We'll try this little bit up here. So that's already, now you may think it's a bit smooth at the moment. Yes, that will, that will change. I might just do that here. So it's just getting a basic shape, and then when it dries off a bit, then we can hook into it with the knife and get it more like this side here. But the main thing we're trying to do is to get this flow through. What I used to do when I first started doing my plaster rocks, I tried to get everything really neat. And of course that's not how Mother Nature is. I try and get in here and make all these nice and smooth, but of course you lose all this nice roughness and features here. And so the idea is rough as guts, trendsetters. Well, to a point, you know, to a point. Now if you want to see a master craftsman making some rocks, go to the UP BNSF Railroad, the guy in Germany, and he has done some amazing scenery, and not just with rocks but with other things. A German guy, I'm pretty sure he's German. And you want to see a good layout with some good scenery, I'm sure there's plenty in the States obviously, but this guy can do rocks incredibly well, and that's where I've been watching a lot of his videos mainly to get the I'm not going to say skill because I'm nowhere near his level, but to get some ideas anyway. So I think what we'll do, well look, see there's a little bit of a thing here, so we might just put a thingo in there like that. Now you can do other things too if you want to make, let's say you want to make a shelf, a bit of a shelf. We can push that up, and that's what this gentleman was doing. You can push that up like that, and then it'll sort of fall, you know, you can either have it like that, or if you want it to a little bit of an overhang, there you go. It's not quite dry enough yet, so if we push that up like that, there we go. You can see by the shadow there we're getting a bit of a relief in there already, a bit of a shadow in there. Now if we want to blend this new plaster with the old stuff, a good idea is a soft, well not a soft, this is a straw sort of brush also, and that'll just blend that in a little bit there. Avoid going like that unless you want to put lines in, because that's what it'll do. I like this brush, it's quite coarse, it's a rough old thing, and what it does, it puts some texture in the rock. Because a lot of this other rock here that I use for my rock molds was actually had some texture in it. So see what's going down there. Now what I'll do with that is I'll continue that line through. Now when this gets a bit dry, we can break out the old Stanley knife, and that is the best thing, because what it does is it does a really rough cut and drags all the plaster through with it, and you get all these little bits of plaster here, like little bits of rock that actually happen in real life. So what I'm doing now, I've got this dry brush again, or basically dry, and I'm just tapping it slightly and give it a bit of a wiggle, and that's putting some dots and lines in the top of this rock. Not too much, just a little bit, just so it's not dead smooth. If you want dead smooth, then that's fine. I'm not doing every one, of course. Just a little bit. Now we've got our old trusty Stanley knife here, and this is just a cheap old one. And the beauty of this is when you're, now we can start putting these lines in, and what it does, see how it drags. You don't want a nice clean little stainless steel blade like, where are we? Here, like this little spatula. This is great for doing the preliminary stuff and shaping, but it's too smooth and it gives you that fake look. So you want some rough as guts old thing like this, so when you go through it starts sort of tearing at the plaster a little bit, and see that there, and the plaster starts. If you watch this guy, this German guy do it, he's got bits of crap hanging off his knife everywhere, and you think, what are you doing, man? But it really does make a difference. You can see it there now, how it's just grabbing this plaster. Don't go too crazy obviously, but just want to get rid of that little bit there. I want to carry that bit across there from that side, You can see already you're starting to get that little dirt look about, well, dirt, yeah, you know, rocks that have been crushed and fallen out of the, and I know just even doing that now, just here, is making it look better already. See the bits breaking up, don't worry, bits break off. Now, go around here, remember this is our bit, the relief here that we did before. This is where I absolutely ruin it in front of the camera. It'll be a bit gentle down here. You see these little bits falling down there? Just to give it, I guess we're giving it a shadow line really. You know? I mean, this is by nowhere near as good as we can get it, but I've got to say, I'm pretty stoked for a first attempt. Okay, this is a second attempt. I actually practiced over here. And really, I think photos are a great idea, which I don't have, which I really should. I will get some for the for when I get starting a bit bigger, I think. So I'll just take that little bit off there. How are we looking? Maybe we should have done a bit of a relief under here as well. There. Now another thing, if you're doing this, it might even be a good idea to put a layer of plaster on here first, or some sculptor mould a little bit. If you're going thin, this is quite thin because I don't want this mountain coming out. So I've got to be a little bit careful how crazy I go here. So this is really where you want some photos, I think, because I'm sort of running out of practical ideas now. So we might make that into another rock there. A separate piece, another rock. Let's come through there. And what we can do. Oh no, see how a wet brush just kills that? Yeah, never mind. Okay. The dry brush is much better for getting rid of emphasizing these cut lines. Because a wet brush just fixes it all. We don't want it fixed. The other thing is knowing when to stop, as the bishop said to the stripper. So we might just making sure I don't get in the way of the camera here. Now here's a little bit up here where I might actually use a wet brush, because what I want to do is maybe just blend that little bit in a bit there. Okay. So I guess you can consider a wet brush like an eraser, and if you've got like a rough edge and you want to smooth it out a little bit, you can just go over with a wet brush and just round the edges over, but be very careful because you'll end up with what I did to my plaster rock moulds on the earlier part of the layer. You end up ruining them. Well, there we go. I think we've basically reached the end of my skill level. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. I'm happy with some of the things I've done up here, little cracks here, and some of the, some of the cutting. Yeah, unless you've seen someone really do a good job who knows what they're doing, it's okay. But for literally a first attempt, I'm quite happy with it. So I need to go away and watch a few more videos, I think, before I show you guys what to do. Well, there you go. I think we've done as far as we can on this now. I have to go and learn a few more skills. And But I think it's turned out pretty good for a first attempt. So I'll go away and learn a few more, and this will do us for part 1 on this whole scene here. And we'll be back to do some more fine carving on this as I put these guys into dynamics. There we go. And finish all this bit off, and then we have to work on the tunnel portion on the other side over there. So anyway, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on this one in part 2. So all the best, hooroo for now, bye bye. Who'd have thought? Scenery on the Birdwood Sub. My God.